sitting quietly, maybe reading, maybe just thinking, and you become aware, slowly, that you're being watched. You look up. Your dog is there, not moving, not asking for food or a walk, just looking at you, steady, patient, with something in their eyes that doesn't quite fit any word you have for it. You've seen that look 1,000 times. You've smiled at it. Maybe you've looked away first. But you've probably never asked what's actually happening in your dog's brain and in yours during those few silent seconds. The answer reaches further back than you might expect, and it changes what that moment means. Why does my dog stare at me? The science of dog eye contact has just been rewritten. What they found is stranger and far more beautiful than anyone predicted. Most people assume it's about wanting something. Food, a walk, attention, and sometimes that's true. Dogs do learn that looking at you often produces results. But researchers began noticing something that didn't fit that explanation. Dogs stare at their owners even when there's nothing to want. When they're full, when they've just been walked, when the house is calm and nothing is about to happen. They stare in moments of stillness, and the owners stare back, neither one quite knowing why. For decades, animal behavior science treated this as learned association. The dog stares, the human responds, the behavior is reinforced. Clean, logical, unsatisfying. Because anyone who has sat with a dog for 20 years knows that explanation leaves something out. Something was happening in those moments that nobody had measured yet. In 2015, a research team in Japan decided to measure it. They took 30 dog owner pairs into a room. They let them interact naturally for 30 minutes. They collected urine samples before and after. What they were looking for was oxytocin, a hormone most people associate with childbirth and breastfeeding. But oxytocin does something broader than that. It is the chemical signal the brain uses to mark something as worth protecting, worth staying near, worth trusting. The research team had a hypothesis. They were not prepared for what they found. In every pair where the dog had spent more time gazing at the owner's oxytocin levels had risen significantly. Not slightly, significantly. And then, this is where it becomes extraordinary. The dog's oxytocin levels had risen too, in both directions, at the same time.
Think about the last time your dog looked at you like that.
What the researchers had found was not a one-way signal. It was a loop. Your dog looks at you, your brain releases oxytocin. You feel something, warmth, connection, the specific tenderness of being known by a creature who cannot lie. You respond. You hold the gaze. You lean slightly forward. You soften. And your dog's brain, reading every micro signal your face and body are sending, releases oxytocin in return, which makes them hold the gaze longer, which keeps your levels elevated. A reinforcing cycle, running silently between two species, calibrated over thousands of years. The scientists named it the oxytocin gaze positive loop. It had never been documented between humans and any other species. Not even our closest primate relatives show this with us. Only dogs. And only dogs who have been living alongside us long enough to learn how to read our faces.
To confirm this wasn't coincidence, the team ran a second experiment. They administered oxytocin directly, as a nasal spray, to a group of dogs before their interactions with owners. The result was clear. Those dogs gazed at their owners for longer. And because they gazed longer, the owner's own oxytocin levels rose higher. The hormone had been given to the dog, but it ended up elevated in the human. The loop was real. It was causal. It was biological. And it raises a question that science is still working to answer. How did dogs develop this ability? Wolves, their closest wild relatives, do not do this. Hand-raised wolves? Wolves who have spent their entire lives with humans, who know human faces and voices, still do not initiate this kind of mutual gaze. They were studied in the same experiments. The loop did not activate.
The capacity to bond with you through eye contact is not something dogs were born with. It is something they evolved specifically because of you.
This is where the story becomes much older. Dogs were first domesticated somewhere between 15 and 30,000 years ago. The estimates vary, but the timeline is ancient. What researchers believe happened, gradually, over thousands of generations, is that dogs who could read human faces survived better. Dogs who could track our gaze, interpret our expressions, and respond to our emotional signals were fed, sheltered, and protected. The ones who triggered warmth in us lived longer and bred more. And so, over thousands of generations, dogs became something that had never existed before, an animal shaped by human emotion. Not just trained by it, shaped by it. At the genetic level, in the structure of their faces, those raised inner brows that make a dog's expression so readable, and in the chemistry of their brains. The oxytocin system in dogs didn't just persist through domestication, it adapted to include us.
The APA, the American Psychological Association, published a major survey of dog cognition research in late 2025. The conclusion running through all of it was consistent. The dog-human relationship is not an approximation of something else. It is its own thing. Researchers found it combines the emotional qualities of a best friendship with the neurological markers of a parent-child bond, more mutually supportive in measurable terms than most relationships between humans. This is not sentiment, it is data. The brain scans are real. The hormone assays are real. When you look at photographs of your dog and photographs of people you love, the same regions of your brain activate. The same regions associated with caregiving, with attachment, with the kind of love that doesn't require explanation. That quiet moment on the couch, your dog watching you without asking for anything, is being processed by your brain the same way it processes your most important human relationships.
There's a harder finding inside all of this. A study from Arizona State University, published in the spring of 2025, found that humans are actually quite poor at reading their dog's emotional states accurately. We tend to project. We see what the situation suggests we should see, rather than what the dog is actually showing us. When a dog makes what we interpret as a guilty face, research shows that expression is almost always fear. The dog reading our anger and responding to it, not acknowledging wrongdoing. We miss signals of stress. We misread contentment. We are, in many cases, responding to a dog we've imagined rather than the dog in front of us. This sounds like a criticism. It is actually an invitation, because the dogs are not making the same mistake. They are watching us with extraordinary accuracy, learning our moods, our rhythms, our tells.
The researchers at Arizona State put it plainly. Our dogs, they said, are trying to communicate with us. We humans seem determined to look at everything except the dog itself. What that means practically is this. The next time your dog holds your gaze, resist the impulse to narrate it. Don't decide immediately what they're asking for or what they're feeling. Just hold the gaze back. Let the loop run. Notice what happens in your body. The slight release of tension, the small warmth behind the sternum, the way the room feels a little less urgent. That is oxytocin. That is 15,000 years of coevolution expressing itself in a quiet room. And your dog, reading your face, reading your posture, reading signals you don't know you're sending, is feeling something that the science now suggests is genuinely parallel to what you feel. When did you last let that moment last as long as your dog wanted it to? There is a question that runs under all of this research, largely unspoken. It has to do with what it means that another species chose us, not domesticated animals broadly, dogs specifically. The animals that sat at the edge of our fires and watched us, that learned to read the muscles around our eyes, that developed across thousands of years of proximity a neurochemical response to our presence that mirrors our neurochemical response to theirs. We did not set out to create this. It wasn't designed. It emerged, slowly, from something simpler. Two species paying attention to each other across a long and difficult stretch of history. And somewhere in that stretch, the attention became something else. Something that now shows up in hormone levels and brain scans, and the particular quality of a gaze that you've seen 1,000 times and never quite been able to name.
You are sitting quietly again, and your dog is watching you. You know now what is happening in the space between you. You know that their brain is doing something no wolf can do, something that required thousands of years and countless generations to become possible. You know that the steadiness in their gaze is not patience. It is recognition. It is the outcome of a process so long and so slow that no individual life on either side could have witnessed it. And you know that when you meet that gaze, when you hold it without looking away, you are completing a circuit that runs all the way back to a fire somewhere in the dark, and two kinds of creature deciding separately and then together that the other one was worth staying near. That is what is happening in their brain. That is what is happening in yours.
There is nothing small about a dog watching you from across a quiet room.
If this changed how you see that moment, if it gave words to something you already felt but couldn't quite place, then you'll find the next video on this channel worth your time. It follows one thread further. What else your dog is reading in your face right now, and the surprising ways their accuracy exceeds yours. The link is just above. And if you have a dog nearby, look at them for a moment before you click. Let them look back. You know now what that means. You know what you're both doing.